And the good news too is on Ascent, you could still play some Euro if you want to. But unfortunately here, if you're looking at now, the agent's finally coming out. Raid E sub 2, I'm assuming is going to be Sleepy Aria at this point. But they're not going to be coming out here with the Euro, which, like I said, could still be very good on this map. Something from Paper Rex plays it and plays it very well. But you could still see here, going back into the tried and true, Miko going to the Jet, Marceline, aka Khaleesi, also going to a Jet. But yeah, I want to keep the focus on Sleepy Aria as a Phoenix. I think a Phoenix is super strong on this map, and it could also be a great replacement into a Neon, for example, with those walls I just talked about on the space that you're trying to get and the space that you're trying to take. It's going to be super good, and especially now that the orbs or the ult is still 6 orbs only needed for the Phoenix ult, it's easy for you to capture the orb control and orb space to spam here the ults on your attack side.
And Seki has moved away from being a previous KO player on Ascent to now bringing out the Vise, which is going to be the person putting all the hoops and the obstacles down for the Jets and the Duelists to be jumping through. And then you got the old school Deadlock from Eli, where Eli has also been someone who's really liked the Phoenix, but certainly not on this map. So only one Duelist on the Ghost Gaming side. So there will be a double Sentinel setup, of course, which on a 2-site map is always great. You get to, share the workload, and that means Sad will really have to identify what that setup is going to be once Ghost Gaming go on defense, but only one Sentinel on the side of Sad GC.
Yeah, and you have to think about it. Let's roll back the years and talk about here the strengths of playing this double Senti in the past is just so good in terms of stalling, and which is why you saw the meta evolve a little bit to having like a Euro in chamber, because the Euro in chamber could start breaking util and TPing away and forcing these rotates, and you can play the long game here against the double Senti. But this time, when you don't have that type of composition currently for SAT Esports to bait that type of util, we'll have to see. I think Ghost Gaming still has a very strong composition for their defensive side, but as they start off on the attack, it'll be a little bit more difficult for them to get the ball rolling in the first place.
Here's the defense setting up and in a very aggressive stance as well, looking to see if Seki is going to place maybe a battle flash, or if not, it's 2 sets of flashes too. When the Phoenix is ready to curveball around the corner, we'll see how Ghost Gaming handles his curveball as the tone is being set. It's Ghost Gaming with the first blood. A fantastic shot from Khaleesi, aka Marceline, but it is traded now. It's a loud scuffle when it comes to the middle of the map, and Miku really cemented themselves and the rest of SAT on this defense.
Yeah, just pushing down middle, getting these picks. But there's actions all across the map so far too, and it's an advantage for Ghost Gaming to at least get the plant down. Vanitas is so far away from the action though, so this gives a chance here for SAT Esports to flood in for this 3 versus 2 on A site.
Stealing sight.
Try and pressure these bottom corners here. In hell, Eli just one shock bolt and it's the end. One shot and Miku falls, and Ghost Gaming are taking angles. Sad have to huddle up. Power of friendship. Gia 26 HP and is the last one, or is remaining with the rest of Ghost Gaming. So strong pistol despite kind of the splash that Miku created in the middle of the map.
Yeah, especially when it went for a 3-2 split on extremities, trying to create a fake story on that B side, and it worked quite well. It almost looked like from those picks from Miku, it really was going to be around here for Sat to kick things off on the pistol round, but you have to commend this time Gia over on the A side, throwing that paranoia, delaying long enough for the late alert from Vanitas to get any value and that backstab kill onto Miku in the first place. So they saved the round going into that one with hero plays, with util still available on the pistol on the attack side, and already recognizing in this second round some sort of potential aggro push once again. They want to this time block Miku from walking down towards middle. They're also trying to prevent any type of split to be pushing across here for SAT Esports on the defense, so everybody's holding back towards spawn, and now finally it's for them to move forward, and they're choosing the correct path so far, because there's only one person playing towards this B site while the rest of SAT are trying to gamble stack this A.
As every second goes by, SAD are still have an aggressive stance despite the weapon disadvantage. Gia's gonna realize this and also be aware of the numbers around the corner. This is such a good call out for Gia and the rest of Ghost, and now they can be aggressive towards B. So Sekia has to be ready, has that battle flash as Ghost Gaming enter the site. Sekia just trying to play her life as best as possible while the Marshal keeps track of the middle of the map. And of course, the kill feed is all red for Ghost Gaming, but even through the blind, Khaleesi puts down 2 more to make it a flawless for Ghost.
And there you go, Khaleesi not needing to play the Neons. There is no mentor versus student type of fight here between her and Sleepy Aria, but definitely as is Jet being very comfortable on that agent too. Talked about the Raze in the past potentially not being in the back pocket, but Jet definitely part of the arsenal of what Khaleesi brings to the table for any team so far. It was a nice attempt though for Sad to continue to walk contact into the A main. I kind of wish they kept walking because I think they could have really got the punish onto Gia. But grabbing the orb, making the sound cues gives a chance now for Ghost to spam this B side on their bonus round.
Wasting no time to, I was gonna say sit on her throne, but Sekia in the perfect place at the right time. Ghost Gaming trying to spam through the choke, thinking they weren't getting a response, and Sad are there to greet them. There's a good enough resistance now from Sad. Now they picked up their first round of weapons, and there's a round 3 op, folks. Miku is not joking around anymore. Sekia, second kill on the site. Eli doing an amazing job with the Sheriff, has already earned the ultimate, but burns to a crisp. What a molly there from Sleepy Aria.
And Sleepy Aria having to choose to break the cocoon or save the op, and unfortunately it goes into saving the op. So Rosetta is gonna have to die, but nonetheless, this is great damage that they've done for Ghost Gaming after losing the first dive in from Khaleesi, and that's the tough part, right? You're playing double Senti. You're hoping that you're able to double flash with Seri and Gia, but B site wasn't really affected. Sekia got the easy kill, and then they were able to hold in the end, but that round 3 op. But at least the tell is there. Ghost Gaming has to be aware of that now, and they could start working, making sure that they could identify here, Ghost Gaming, where this op is currently being set up in the beginning. And you can already see it playing very passively, and Khaleesi also has her own op to try to fight back on top middle.
You gotta fight fire with fire sometimes. Elbow spotted. And unfortunately, Miku will not be in this round anymore. Now a uncontested op in the middle of the map will mean Ghost Gaming will have better control of middle, and Sad will be stuck on the perimeter on islands watching and awaiting what will be Ghost Gaming's next move.
Yeah, getting that first blood there too. You're starting to see the drone coming out from the B side, so they're trying to at least get control of some sort of lane, so I like this push towards A main from Sad.
You got the Phoenix just out in the open. I mean, Rosetta does not care. Ghost Gaming here to make some space, and we'll try to seal off the defense, but Eli wants to get proactive. See if they could have found any timing. So at least the spike did go down.
No more thorns.
Wanting to maybe get ahead of the game. No, gonna try and just play a crossfire as Eli can play bait outside. You have someone watching main. So I like this post playing here from Ghost Gaming. 3 versus 3. Sad getting into position. You have a recon from Cow Sushi. Shock bolts, a lot left, including even an ult from Sleepy Aria, but really not needing it. Was actually fade out using that ultimate. And here's the drop down. Sekia being careful with the swing. Seri does well under pressure. It's a 1v1, and Sekia ends it with the pistol.
Ends up being a very good round for Sad Esports on that fight. It all came down to that double push towards A main, which I love because they'd already lost control of middle in the first place by Miko losing the op battle. And also joining that B side, you know there's going to be some sort of an A split with a heavy control on middle. So they double walk towards that A main. They win the 2v2 fight at that spot. And then that'll also allow Sleepy Aria to have their ultimate on the Phoenix, run it back to just drone back into the A site and not lose their lives into an A main where their position was obvious. So that was very nice. It was a little bit of a team flash in the end on a 2 versus 1, but at the end of the day, Sekia was able to clean it up and force now the eco on the side of Ghost Gaming. Of course, Bladestorm will be available, so you're trying to get the top fight into A main.
Guys, Sekia just held the trophy at LAN, okay? Of course she's warmed up for this series, but the judge, okay, the 180, the 3K. Judge abusers rise up. The defense is ironclad, and you have just been judged.
I told you that they like to abuse the judge. And that range with the judge, it's supposed to be nerfed, but they still get so much good damage out of it in the end by maybe not necessarily whiffing onto Khaleesi in the first place because she dived in, but the other 3 players just on the other side, that should have been a much easier trade, especially when Sleepy Aria is netted to the ground. Yet they still are able to pick up 3 kills. and already getting one orb away going to their ultimate in against the Ghost Gaming gun round. So this is looking pretty tough right now for Ghost Gaming, but that was going to be the nature of this half anyways for their attack side because of this double senti comp. Hopefully they could stop the bleeding though, because they're still making it fairly close.
Miku has really prioritized getting some control, and now control of middle, I should say, but now with some support. Ghost Gaming are trying to assess the numbers here in the middle of the map. You hear an Odin, and you really don't know what the full crunch and what the full plan is of Sad. So Ghost Gaming try to get ahead of it. Seems to be a lot leaning towards the B site. But now you really have to figure out what is going to be the Vise setup. And Sekia has been just the final boss. Miku is even going to get tagged up. So knows there's presence here in B main. So Ghost Gaming still playing for the picks, still really getting eyes and ears on the site. And there's so many angles, and Ghost Gaming keep trying to challenge it, and now they pay the price.
I actually didn't like Sekia also challenging towards that B line because they actually have their Steel Garden available for Vice. Losing that on that B side with the setup would have been bad. But at least they pivot to rotate from Ghost Gaming over on the A side where the Odin is still here from Kalsushi.
All right. And be on top of this hill and just carves right through Gia, but Ghost Gaming, they're in a much healthier position. They're the ones on the site, and now they just have to seal Sad away and seal the deal on this round to try and tie things up. No knives are still out. Miku on their last breath. Eli with a huge double, and Sad are running out of options. And Miku knows it with no route to escape it. Ghost Gaming, man, they just play with so much confidence.
Yeah, great shots for sure from both Eli and also the entry on the side of Khaleesi. Taking full map control too around these fights. It started off very well in terms of the read that SAT Esports had on the defense. They funneled everybody towards this B side, but like I said, because of the setup here, not only from Sekia over on the B side with the Steel Garden, they've also realized that, and also the wall being placed right at the entrance of the B site. So Ghost Gaming knew that it was going to be a trap no matter what going into that triple crossfire setup for SAT Esports over on the B side. They gambled stack towards, or they gambled to push towards A and to just win their duels in that sense. And Ghost kind of, or SAT just kind of still kept their 3 players over on that B side, so they got overrun.
And we have ourselves a tie game. Does not get any closer than this, but you know you have to be wary if you're Ghost on these lower buys from SAD. You just don't know if there's going to be a judge in an Omen smoke. I would be paranoid getting through any of these choke points because you can't just use speed. Ghost Gaming are just ever so cautious. They'll stand out in the choke point, look for those picks, but more often than not, it feels like SAD has been ahead of that. But once Ghosts are established, there is just no peeling them out of that site.
We're overcooking this time around too. They think they could do the similar round as last time by pressuring towards B side and then going back towards A, but here's that judge once again.
Oh, here's the judge at 5 HP. And thankfully, the Phoenix can just heal themselves up. No time to really do that. And the judge does lose out on the range. Good spacing there from Gia, realizing what was around the corner as Gia wants to be part of the action. Eli removed, not able to use that annihilation, but this has been such a good sight for Ghost when it comes to these post plants. Won't have a paranoia, but they'll have Sari flashes as Kalsushi will at least mark how many members will be in hell, as Sari may just go to hell if they keep getting shot at while pinged. As SAD now try to get established. You have the Steel Garden to remove these vandals. Ghost Gaming will be caught in this, so it's an even battle as SAD take down the last members, just Sari, who cannot do anything more. So SAD, good use of the ult.
Very good use of the ult, and also just once again Sleepy Aria being a thorn on the side with the judge. I think in the first place, when you're realizing here not only that Ghost Gaming are running a very similar round than the last one, the fact that SAT Esports actually double pushed towards the B main, and baited that wall out, forced now Ghost Gaming to rotate over on the A side. And then it just had to come down to, well, CP Aria, are you going to be able to land your shotgun kills? And does get the judge kill, drops that spike. And because you're forcing the other one, there was only 2 players towards that A main side. You have to TP towards site to safety to plant with the rest of your team. So that allows here Rosetta to move forward, pick up the Vandal, and then they're able to encroach on a pinch on different angles from heaven and from A main. So a very nice little half buy round that we had here for SAT Esports that converts into a big dub that also is already going to force out a timeout here from Ghost Gaming.
And not just that, Sad were able to get 3 Vandals, or at least 3 rifles, as the 3 surviving members, stealing those from Ghost Gaming, which is going to help the economy, allows Miku to buy an op, which is, now the second op that they have purchased, and carrying through at least on one of those rounds, and having an uncontested op is going to go crazy. Ghost Gaming now have to figure out what is their half-buy, or what is their eco going to look like, and can they leverage those ults at all? That's what's going to be interesting. And Sad, if they can kind of turn this into some momentum, especially having a very important op in the picture, especially on a map like Ascent, is this where Sad can start to build more of a buffer between them and Ghost.
Yeah, and I think Ghost with this timeout, what they have to do here is being a little bit more proactive around the map. I think they are thinking that they're getting a lot of space, but then over-rotating without breaking util, without knowing where the real positioning is at, not getting a real cat control either. So they're just running still into a lot of players that have close fight util, and also just shotguns in corners. So you got to make sure they're more proactive around the map here.
We already saw the paranoia in the main, and that initial aggressive peek from Sad that they have shown. Miku shows the barrel, does not land. The Annihilation claims the op, and Sad are not able to free them. This is such a risky swing now, but against the Sheriff, Sad try to get away with it, and it's Sushi will manage to free Miku and also keep control of mid, punish Ghost Gaming, and this was a Hail Mary play from Ghost Gaming. All that distraction gets them into a plant situation, while Sleepy Aria wide awake to create some disruption towards the top of the site. Now ready to run it back with the ult. You have Siri in main at half HP, overwhelmed and suffocated as Ghost Gaming takes shelter in the closet. Gia could try to surprise, but it is 2 Sheriffs against 4 rifles. So Ghost Gaming, they surprised, but this is unfortunately where it's going to end, and Sad can create more of that gap between the score.
Yeah. And at least what I liked here is proactiveness is what I was looking for. Proactivity too. Unfortunately, this is only just a thrifty round that you had here for Ghost. He had Sheriffs to work with, and they were trying to hopefully get some value out of the ults that they currently tried to cycle across to try to get that round. You got you caught one here on Catwalk, so you know now that Catwalk could be pressured, and there's opportunities for you to take openers there for the side of Ghost Gaming. But unfortunately here with the series Steel Garden, you're hoping that there was going to be players anchored up on that B side, but there was nobody there. So Sleepy Aria being able to be the tip of the spear to allow Sad Esports to start rotating back into this B side for the dub in the end. But this is where the timeout was super important too, to figure out what you can do here in your rifle round. And the proactiveness is once again there, taking that cat control, taking it to mid control, and also noting that the wall on the defense side is on top of them too. Bait that out.
Marceline really changing it up, realizing that Sad just like to crunch from all sides, and mid is being a lot more confident, speedy, dashing in, walled up currently because of the Vise, but Khaleesi really has to start having a bigger impact for Ghost Gaming if they want to catch up. And you want to have a splash when you're able to buy up like this. You want to build up your economy. It's a 1v2 and Khaleesi's forced out, man. These Molly placements have been insane for Sleepy Aria. Just slotting in at the last second has been such a boon. Another kind of 1v2. Ghost Gaming are just outnumbered and seemingly outgunned as Vanitas tries to step forward to fill that gap, and now Sad may just be the ones outnumbered here on the A side.
Spike down A.
It's pinged down in the first place as well, but at least you're able to get that first pick off the rotate for Eli. But it's a 2v2, and Sari's solo on the side. They know the second one's very far behind, so the 2 duelists might decide to flood through.
Okay, is surrounded. Oh, what a turn and burn on. Thanks to Sari. Miku with a drive-by. Oh my god. The one top is crazy. And now Sad double ghost score.
Dude, they had to curve that bullet there. That was so random, because it looked from my screen that they never really let go of the straight button. Somehow still gets a headshot through a box on the last remaining player, albeit they were one-shottable to the chest. But it became a straight bullet here that just lands in the dome. And Sad Esports, you're starting to see here for Ghost Gaming that it is a pain point to deal against Sleepy Aria as is Phoenix, against a Judge, against an Odin. There's just so much here on the board that does allow for Ghost Gaming to get a strong footing on their attack side.
Hey, there's maybe attempted play from Sekia placing a forward dive wall to trap Ghost Gaming. And because of that Hunter's Fury, I think Sad are going to have to take a seat, and Sushi taking shelter within the smoke. close the door, and now Ghost Gaming have full control of the site. But it is mostly sheriffs that you're looking at here for Ghost. Losing that last round really did hurt them. Sad. Now trying to come through. They've broken down the door. They have volleys. They have shot bolts. They have Ghost Gaming cornered, and Miku opens up with the first blood. The judge is also kicking Ghost in the dirt, and it evicts the rest of the defenders of Ghost Gaming. And Sad now are on a 4-round win streak.
I still definitely respect here what Ghost Gaming is really trying to do with these ults. It doesn't even matter if they have weapons or not. They're still trying to create as much space and winning opportunities available here with the ults and try to cycle them as much as they can. Like if you're looking at the last round here of this half, there's a potential to still have like 2 or maybe 3 ults available for them unless Eli goes huge this round. That could be 4 ults moving into the last round of regulation. So they're trying to make big plays and trying to make miracles happen with the lower buys that they had through these ults. At least it nets them for plans that they could build the economy with for the side of Ghost Gaming and go from there.
We're going to check in on this tech pause. Hopefully the weather hasn't moved to someone else's camp and taken their power out. But hey, this is going to be a very important round for Ghost if they even want to attempt to make this a 7-5 half, because the economy has really struggled. And I think it's just been trying to get these first picks, whether it's getting peaks or just swinging off the B site to, I think Ghosts get really established at A, but Sad have downloaded how to just completely surround them. They take control of main. Ghosts haven't really been able to leverage having someone in main. Ghosts have just really had their post plants be really one-dimensional, which is kind of just stay in hell and usually end up there as well.
Yeah. They probably have to try to take down at least one of these duelists when it comes down to the full site execs, because keeping Sleepy R alive or Miku is definitely showing that it's a moot point for them to be able to stay alive in these post plant scenarios for Ghost Gaming. But I think overall 3 rounds is still not too bad as you're looking at this composition, because for me it's just flashbacks as well to, again, to give G2 the example. If they're playing when they were playing Vice and Chamber back then with the Euro meta as well, if they got 3 rounds on the attack, they're comfortable. They're like, we're going to win the map still because we have such good stall utility going into the defensive rounds. And not only will you have that with a deadlock instead, but that annihilation, you see it get 2 out of 2. Eli has gotten value out of it as they were able to catch somebody every single time. So it could definitely show a lot of strength into how they want to play their defensive side. The grab nets are also very strong so far from Eli that I've noticed on their attack side as well. So I'm looking forward as we have 2 more rounds to go before we're able to witness the defensive side for Ghosts.
Well, we're chucking Util on the other side of this wall, trying to create distraction for Khaleesi making entry. And man, this is so well supported as Geo teleports in and creates some covering fire on the opposite side of Jenny. So Ghost with the immediate plant, but like you said before, they've only taken down 1 duelist, and now there's another one in the picture, and Sekia is already stopping the duelist from the Ghost Gaming side. The Steel Garden is unleashed. Ghost Gaming are going to have the best weapons to retaliate, and what a timing on that stun. Sad are going to adjust. Rosetta's also getting stunned by Eli. Here's the drop down, and here's Ghost Gaming getting shaken and stirred. Annihilation claims Rosetta, and that means Ghost Gaming have a much needed win on this round.
Looks like 3 out of 3 now with the annihilation from Eli. So yes, definitely a much needed round that ends up being a very good round for them. And they also wanted to give the respect to SAT Esports. Even if you have the crossfire setup, you have one that can play that time. You want to make sure here that you guarantee the round. So just throw your ult out. That's fine. You could have kept it for this round here too, but take the round. Why not? It still became a super nice execution from Ghost Gaming into that A site, because Sleepy Arya tried to do whatever they can to try to stay alive in the back of Jenny. The first flash was perfect, but there's just too many players that are diving through from Khaleesi and Geo with the dash and the TP that Sleepy Arya couldn't really readjust on a fight in front of Generator. So nice on Ghost to take over that timing. I'll try it again.
Like having a judge in the back pocket, that's important. Ghost Gaming, again, a lot of util coming over this wall. Sad are just gonna have to stay put as Khaleesi makes this space and would like to deal with that kill a little quicker, but it's still flawless for Ghost Gaming on the entry, minus some injuries. You need a band-aid, but you also need that spike down, so it works out perfectly. Sekia and Miku coming in different spots, and Sekia is always good for her ones. And now the pressure builds towards the top of the site. Miku waits for their moment. Try and pressure in hell. It already removes one. And Miku has a lot on their plate when it comes to players in main. Ghost Gaming changing it up. Trying to play a crossfire. Eli really hesitating on the swing, being at 1 HP. And Miku knows there's one player left back here, and it's just clinical for people like Miku and the rest of SAD that make this an 8-4 half.
What a retake by Miku and Sekia. That was a 2 versus 4, if I'm not mistaken. 2 players towards hell, 2 towards a main, and yet you still get the retake on individual angles. You talked about it. One was stuck towards heaven. That was Sekia. Miku was still coming from double doors, or sorry, the doors on Cat, and they were still able to convert these rounds. I scratched my head on that wide swing from Miku that went across the front of A main to fight into hell. I was like, how the hell did they know that their opponent was actually still holding back here towards Wine, the post plant, for them to be able to take that round in the end? That was just beautiful. That's gonna hurt too, because that should have been a confirmed round for Ghost Gaming that could put him up to 5, but 4 for me again is still good enough for them to put up a good fight in the second half.
That's where the Sentinels really got to step up right now. It's the Vise towards A, and kind of honestly splitting the workload as, man, Ghost Gaming going to work. The immediate clash in mid rewards first and second blood thanks to those sheriffs. And SAD are going to be very distraught on how they're going to get into the site without a jet.
Agreed. At least he can still do it. CP Aria that still has 2 flashes to work with. It seems they really like the frenzy here on the pistol round.
Isn't as good at range, or it's a maybe a bigger issue. Really wanting to brawl in. Just wow, the timing on the flash from there. Sari there is incredible.
One enemy remaining.
SAD are stuck. They're cornered like dogs, and Ghost Gaming are looking to take care of business. And Ghost taking that pistol. This is where the comeback starts.
The student could take down the mentor for that round, but at least the teammates were there to support Ghost Gaming to get that round on the pistol. And you'll start seeing this a lot as well too, as you're playing this double senti setup. Is that the name of the game and the goal around this when you're playing such good util on the defensive side is you're trying to funnel your opponents into scopes, into the op of Khaleesi, most importantly. But you're seeing this round that they're actually playing double outlaw and a guardian on top of that. So they have to be proactive around the map with the util, especially with the wall, and try to get them towards the scopes. I think that's the win con here for Ghost.
Yeah, you just do not want to go mid with pistols anyway, and just flying into the midst of the action. Miku will no longer be part of that action, so SAD now has to take the mantle. What a timing on the swing too, and the peek from Khaleesi through the smoke. Saw no one in mid and was called to the rescue. SAD are the ones really that need rescuing. They only have 2 left. They were able to take down 1 rifle, trying their best to weaken the upcoming bonus here of Ghost, but pretty strong. Now another rifle falls, and kind of awkward for the outlaw to push through such a tiny site like this. Rosetta is able to pick up a guardian. You got a button too. Upgrades from the classic in the frenzy. Wow. Takes down the goat. What is with SAD? All of a sudden rising to the occasion when they only had 2 pistols. It was a 2v4, now it's a 2v2. Power Friendship crosses the barriers up the smoke, and a Bucky claims another, and SAD claim a Thrifty.
Not another 2vx, man. That's how it ended on the first half, and now that's how they're gonna get ecoed on the second round of the second half here for Ghost Gaming. That laser being shot from the frenzy though from CP Aria was insane, because Khaleesi had that line of sight the whole time, watching down towards that lane. Maybe because she was unscoped, maybe got caught off guard, but holy crap, was that a specific shot. Right between the eyes of Khaleesi, and even drops the outlaw. And that shouldn't have been a round lost there by Ghost Gaming, because they had full control of that spike from the very get-go. This is going to hurt them for the rest of the half potentially here for Ghost Gaming, especially now with these kills. You have now an ult available for Sleepy Aria.
It's just good adjustments for Sad to realize, okay, there's 2 outlaws in this picture. Let's use smokes. Let's leverage that and find the right timings of maybe an outlaw is scoped in looking at the different way. And now those outlaws really paid the price on a fight area that was not advantageous for them. And now Sad are back in the driver's seat, where that was a moment for Ghost Gaming to get some wind in their sails. Now there's still a good 4-round gap, but it's the buys here that will get potentially Sad to double digits, barring something insane from Ghost.
Yeah, it's potentially now a raft just left stranded in the middle of the ocean for Ghost Gaming after suffering against the eco of Sad Esports. They're being fairly proactive around the map too, realizing now that Ghost Gaming are not really trying to go for trap plays and being proactive around the map so they could just farm for these orbs. So picking up on one side here on the B site, finishing up towards the A site. And that will potentially be or a walk contact to get the entry towards the A
30
main
seconds left.
before the orb gets picked up.
Maybe you can get lucky with a right-click classic move here for Khaleesi, and is already smoked off. That's going to dissipate quite quickly, and Khaleesi
Spike
gets
down
one, so
A.
that's better than nothing, especially at an injured state. I like the position from Miku, because you're not expecting someone to be
10
in this
seconds
corner.
left.
The outlaw repositions. Sad get the spike in position. It's 2 pistols versus 4, but 2 seems to be a very cursed number when it comes to retakes. And no, not for Sad. Quite happy now getting to double digits.
And the respect too for Sad Esports. I was just talking about it before when Ghost Gaming were using the ultimates in advantageous scenarios already where they didn't really need to use their ults. Sad Esports just did the same. So CP Aria pushing into their towards the A side to make sure that they confirm that there's no stack going in from Ghost Gaming towards that A side is a sign of respect for one, but also because they're playing Phoenix. So if you're going to keep farming for CP Aria, that's potentially another ult available in the next 2 rounds with the way that they've been playing so far. But the rifle round's out for Ghost Gaming. Mid control is the name of the game. Nice dodge on the flash, though. Khaleesi's in a prime position here.
Khaleesi needs to stand on this hill and die on it if needed. Wins against the Mirror Jet. Not having that jet on the attack always hurts, but this is exactly why Sleepy Aria has to fill those shoes on the Phoenix. Just as good as the entry, almost like a half duelist, half initiator agent. But now you kind of worry about, you don't want to just give up this middle space, not to Ghost Gaming. And Sad, now they're at a pretty severe deficit for this round.
And Rosetta's super low on HP too.
Yeah.
All right, that's how you answer back. And they're in a duel between Khaleesi and Sleepy Aria, won by Sleepy Aria.
Hey, you have eyes and ears on both sides, but you don't have any information on mid. And now you do when you hear the stomping curveball around the corner to get through these layers. But Sari's just front and center, catches Kalsushi checking a corner. Now Sad have to make entry. The Vise wall does seal off
30 seconds
Sekia
left.
from the fight, so the 2 will have to march on without the Sentinel for a few seconds. But Ghost Gaming were in a position to punish that immediately. But from the closet, from the grave,
down,
Sari with the double kill does manage to salvage this for Ghost. Steel Garden from Sari now, as Sekia
10
is able to
seconds
keep
left.
the rifle in hand, but does not have the spike in hand. Now with the last 5 seconds, it's now do or die. Couple of seconds, Sekia needs to go find this kill, and Ghost will just barely manage to take that round.
Big round from Siri too, a 4K anchoring towards that back of the site. A little preemptive once again to utilize the Steel Garden on a defense where you could carry it over to the next. You have player advantage. You have now spike position as well, but you know what happened last time when they had spike position and control on a 4 versus 2 on this very site. They lost it here for the side of Ghost Gaming, so I understand now being preemptive by hitting that red button to make sure that you're guaranteed the round again to stay in this fight. But that is a small little W that you'll take for Sad Esports here, because the economy is still very good after you've ecoed on that second round.
See ya. My ult's ready.
Every first blood here matters for Ghost Gaming, because the round gap has been pretty steady at 4 round differential between these 2 teams. But Ghosts just need not like a miracle, but just need a really good push going. Now with info on all the sites, including in mid, but even with Eli watching, the Outlaw claims the trade. And Sad may have just opened up a lane towards the right side of the map, and this is going to call over the spike.
And that's a smart thing to do here to buy the Outlaw, knowing that the economy's not the best for Ghost.
Oops.
A little bit of a walk contact to get info that doesn't pay off, and now you're getting so much info by just the Jet walking around here.
Small lapse there will cost Ghost some defenders. They didn't just want to stand by and be within such a small site and let Sad flood in. Ghost Gaming want to get ahead of the game, and at least Vanitas tries to give them some small wins. Make that two big wins. Comes to these picks, 2 versus 2, but Vanitas eventually gets checked at the door.
30 seconds
and
left.
Sari has to do it all on her own. Spike getting planted. Flash out. Sari's able to dip out and now has to escape the Steel Garden, which buys precious seconds for Sad to reposition on this post plant. Sari now has to re-clear, but depending on time, probably didn't have time to go main. Could have maybe escaped as the door is still open. Oh no, the door is closed, so gonna really assume that they're gonna be in hell at this point, or on the other side of Jenny, and Sari knows the time is of the essence. Good contact against Rosetta, but Sekia is consistent as ever. Gets Sad closer to the finish line.
Very nice try for Sari too, because she's been very clutch in that previous round and almost actually had that. Knew the read that a second player was hiding under a hell, but just unfortunately couldn't get that fight against Sekia, and Sari falls short. And that will force now the second and last timeout for Ghost Gaming here for this map. And it is their map pick as well. And it just seems like I wouldn't necessarily say here that this is an unorthodox composition here for Sad Esports, because the real replacement you kind of have is a Phoenix instead of a KO. Well, we've also seen in the past, in like the 2021 days, of like the Luminosity Gaming Mata versus 100 Thieves Asuna, of a Phoenix versus Phoenix on this very map in the past. It's still a very viable agent, especially now that the flashes could also replace the KO flashes on this very map. It makes it very difficult here for the defense to get real control of map space and lanes when you have a Phoenix on the board here that not only continues to cycle ults and getting space for the team, but also just the flashes that are very deadly compared to a KO flash.
And I feel like the Deadlock lends to 2 different play styles. You can play off of a barrier in a very slow style where you're forcing an attacking team to have to take that utility down, or you can kind of leverage the net and pair up with a duelist or someone to take advantage and fight with it. I feel like Eli is more of that aggressive Deadlock, at least on the defense, but it hasn't... I mean, yeah, 17 kills is great, but I'd love to see that actually create a more consistent advantage for Ghost, and we'll see that maybe deeper into the app, while as Sari's been fantastic at just stalling. Maybe that's what Ghost needs, but they've never heard of the word stall. But Khaleesi has been out of the conversation for this round, and Sad we're just ready for this level of aggression, and now they're gonna flip the map.
It's very hard for you to try to go for these trap plays when it's only on one lane towards B. You're hoping a little bit more on middle, so that Sad Esports can really focus on one end and get a surprise attack here with Khaleesi's Blade Storm.
To run it back, be first contact. Paranoia, though, is right through the entirety of Sad. It is going to stall them out. It allows Eli to line up the 2, and just the nerves crack, but not Sad as they get to match point.
Yeah, Eli, if anything, though, she's very good in terms of getting some good multi-kill value for a team, but it's very hard for you to convert these rounds too when the rest of the team has fallen down and you're not really in position to trade off in the end. Sometimes it has to come down to these hero plays for sure to make it very manageable and hopefully winnable here for the side of Ghost Gaming, but unfortunately they keep falling short, especially in that previous round where they had to deal with another run it back from Sleepy Aria. So now this is map point for the first map of Sad Esports, and it's op versus op one more time, but they're not going to be chasing against each other yet on mid control.
Nowhere to run!
Really good information from Ghost Gaming side. It's just ping everyone on the B side of things, but as Ghost Gaming tunnel on that, Miku stands in middle, and Khaleesi needs to make this decision very carefully. Now you hear these smokes, this util being used in mid. You have a Hunter's Fury from Vanitas just to really test the waters after that initial presence was shown here at B main. Does force a lot of movement, and orb being grabbed. Sad, just one round away from taking Ghost Gaming's map pick. Sad have been stalled out, really worried about this Vise util. The Vise wall stands right in front of them. They at least the two duelists will cross. Will take a second to rejoin, and Khaleesi didn't realize what was happening. The comms are breaking down from the Ghost Gaming side, but Sari cracks Sad like an egg, and these two defenders against the world to give Ghost Gaming another breath in their lungs, and Vanitas adjust carefully. Now the double swing was perfectly synchronized. The 1v1 is what determines if we're seeing more rounds or a map 2.
A sick shot though for Vanitas. Still a flash available for Sekia. She could potentially use in a 1v1. With 10 seconds left, I think she's trying to bait it out.
10 seconds left.
Sekia gonna plant right at the edge of the staircase. So you can play this from the closet. You can play this within this corner. So many different ways. And I mean, as Gia will walk down from the top of the site, we'll be able to see where this plant is quite easily, and almost tunnels on that. But oh my God! Gia! The composure in that moment, and still at 85 HP, by the way, gives Ghost another round.
Yeah, I think Sekia was kind of dazed by not anticipating somebody just full walking out in the open instead of walking and trying to clear corners, and it's like, why is this looking to be so easy? And I think unfortunately here just got a little bit too nervous on the 1v1, but at least thankfully for Gia, able to keep the dream alive. Not before though the hero plays for Vanitas towards that back of that B side, because that flick on that second kill onto Sleepy Aria was sick and really gave a chance here for Gia to win that 1v1. It was tough too. It was an important clutch to win for Gia on the 1v1 because she's given so much respect and space on that 1v1 against Sekia, but still being able to win that and still putting a lot of good util for support here for Ghost Gaming is going to help them potentially in the long run.
Spike out in the middle of the map while Catwalk is smoked. So Sad seeing if Khaleesi's going to show face when it comes to top mid. Now walking down, and that drops the op right at a main. Huge moment for Rosetta in the spotlight. Kalsushi not being able to see much besides, well, you know, Paranoia's out there. Gia no longer with us, not of this world. Kalsushi and the rest going with confidence, and still with all 5 intact. It's gonna have to be a 2 versus 5 for Ghost. Now you need a miracle. Miku get that first shot going, but we'll be keeping watch here in this room. One forcing Ghost to all have to push through one angle, and Paranoia from Sad right through Sari. And all these precious seconds is what's delaying the inevitable. Ghost Gaming, wait! All the pins line up until Miku. It's just the cherry on top. 13-7, a Sad will take a cent.